is something I have not seen in many a long year, and elf in Imladris I do not know. Welcome, friend. I am Andriel.
Greetings, lady. I am Legolas, son of King Thranduil of the Woodland Realm in Mirkwood.
Tell me about Mirkwood.
Mirkwood is the greatest woodland in all of Middle-earth. It was called Greenwood the Great, before the shadow of Sauron fell over it. In ages past, it was a place of great beauty. But now, it is filled with darkness and dread, save only in the north where my father's realm is maintained.
I am pleased to welcome one of our kin from the Woodland Realm. We so seldom have the opportunity to greet our far-flung kin.
And for my part, I am happy to see Imladris, of which I have heard so much. But travel between your home and mine becomes yearly more hazardous.
Let us hope that will change, for I would like to visit the Woodland Realm one day.
I would be delighted to welcome you, and to show you the wonders of our forest home. Sadly, I think that day must be delayed for some time.
What brought you on such a long and perilous journey?
Unpleasant business. My father sent me to report the escape of Gollum, a creature Aragorn had entrusted to our care.
What can you tell me about this Gollum?
A pathetic creature who long held the Ring of Power. The evil of the ring has left him twisted and tormented. His only thought is to recover what was taken from him.
How did Gollum escape your guard?
Not from a lack of watchfulness, but perhaps from too much kindness. We occasionally allowed Gollum to go about the wood under close guard. But on one of these ventures, the guards were attacked by orcs from Dol Guldur. In the confusion, Gollum escaped. We followed his tracks southward for many leagues, until it drew near to Dol Guldur. There, it became too dangerous to pursue him any further.
What is this place, Dol Guldur?
A stronghold of the enemy in the south of Mirkwood. It was once the dwelling of the Dark Lord, until he was driven out in the year of the Dragon's Fall. But it has once again become a place of great evil. All the darkness that besets Mirkwood has its source in Dol Guldur.
Will you be departing for your home soon?
No. I have been chosen to represent elven kind among the Company of the Ring. I will be accompanying the halfling, Frodo Baggins, on his journey south.
I wonder why it is that with so many elves in his own household to consider, Elrond chose to make you a member of the Fellowship.
I asked for the privilege, and Elrond did not refuse me. I feel he may have been relieved not to lose any of his household to this quest. He will have need of all his strength, should the enemy move against Imladris.
I am curious why you would volunteer for this.
Partially to make amends for the loss of Gollum, but more so because this will be the final chapter in our long struggle against the darkness. And I wish to have a hand in our final victory. Or at least, to stand in the forefront of our last act of defiance.
May Elbereth guide you in the days ahead, Legolas.
And you as well, Andriel.
Andriel, I thought I might see you ere long. Imladris is filled with tales of your exploits. I believe Lindir has even begun a song about them. But while battles can build a heroic reputation, they also break down equipment. You have need of my services.
What task is before you now, Angmir?
My fellow smiths and I are preparing for a great work. Soon we will be called upon to reforge the legendary sword Narsil. In the meantime, I've been sharpening my skills by practicing the art of imbuing gemstones.
What can you tell me of this sword, Narsil?
Narsil was the sword of Elendil, a mighty lord of the Dunedain who defied the Dark Lord in the War of the Lost Alliance. He bore the sword in battle against Sauron, but he was slain and the sword was broken. Since that time, the shards of the sword have been an heirloom of the House of Elendil. It was to remain broken until the day when an heir of Ривенделл would go to war to reclaim the crown and title of king. That day will come soon, and the sword must be made whole once again.
By imbuing, you mean the process of binding powers and virtues to an object?
Yes, clearly you have a good understanding of this art. As you know, gemstones are very strong vessels for this process. Sadly, appropriate gemstones have become difficult to find. The growing trouble throughout the land keeps travelers away, and our own people are staying closer to home.
Perhaps I can help you with that. I will be traveling soon.
I would be pleased to have your help. I will provide you with a list of the types of gemstones that are of the greatest value to me. If you collect the stones, I am certain I could create something that you would find useful. But to be of use, the gemstones must be of the highest quality. Fortunately, we have as a guest a dwarf of the Lonely Mountain. Glóin is his name, and he is skilled in the appraisal of gems of all sorts. Once you have gathered the stones, allow him to examine them. He'll know if they are suitable.
I have discovered some interesting relics of the Dunedain, Angmar. Perhaps you can help me with them.
Ah, these are work of Westernese, the lost land of Numenor. The men who forged these items were skilled indeed. You have the makings of a unique weapon here. Although these components were never part of a single work, I believe you have assembled everything I would need to make it so. The finished weapon would undoubtedly carry some elven qualities.
What do you mean by that?
Only that with a work such as this, the finished product is liable to reflect the nature of the smith who assembles it. If, for example, a dwarven smith were to complete this weapon, it might possess quite different qualities from the weapon I would create.
It seems fitting that an elven smith should do this task for me.
Very good. I will get started at once. There, it is finished. May this serve you well, my friend.
A worthy work indeed. You have my thanks, Angmar.
How can I assist you? The sun shines and all is fair and peaceful here in Imladris. A far cry from the blood and dust of Fornost, is it not? The valor you showed there brings honor to all our folk. I'm only sorry you will have so little time here at home before setting out once more.
How was it you happened to be at Fornost?
You know how bitter is our hatred for the orcs since our mother's ordeal. We often ride far afield hunting them. We came upon signs of a large band of goblins making their way from the orc hold of Mount Gram and followed their trail to Fornost, where we lost no time in attacking them.
How fares your sister, the Lady Arwen?
She is well, although weighed down with care. It is hard for her to be so soon parted from Aragorn, her beloved, but such is their fate.
I trust I can speak to the usual stewards concerning preparations for my journey.
Ilari will help you with any goods and provisions you may require, while Angmir will gladly tend to your arms and armor. Both of them may be found nearby.
Farewell, friends. May good fortune accompany you. It is long since so many dwarves have graced the halls of Imladris. Who might you be?
Gimli, son of Glóin, at your service. I've heard your name spoken with great praise. That was fine work you did at Fornost. Not bad at all for one of Thranduil's folk, who are more accustomed to stealth in the forest than open battle. But after all, you had the help of my kinsman Farin. I heard he played a valiant part.
And so he did. But your wits fail you, Gimli, son of Glóin, if you cannot tell a wood elf from a member of Elrond's house.
Ah, well, no offense meant, but there are Mirkwood elves about in the halls, and they are the kind most familiar to me, being our neighbors and allies. Any elf of Elrond's house is a friend of mine and my kin. I am honored to be a guest here amongst the wise.
Farin spoke no word of more kin following him. What brings you such a distance to Imladris?
Aye, it's a long march from the halls of Erebor, but grim news goes on swift feet. It was for Bilbo's sake we came, with a warning that the servants of Sauron wished to find him and his ring. Thrice a Black Rider came to the front gate of Erebor, demanding news of Bilbo, and threatens to return once more. Ere that should happen, King Dain sent my father, Glóin, to seek the advice of Elrond. You've heard the results of the council? I see you have. I have sworn to protect Frodo upon his quest, an oath I will fulfill though all the orcs of Middle-earth stand in my way.
When you speak of a Black Rider, my mind is filled with the horror of the Nazgul. Was it such a fell messenger that came to your door?
Not one of the Nazgul, I think, but it was a fell servant all the same, who spoke in a voice like the hissing of snakes. What sort of man can serve the enemy willingly, even gladly, is beyond my understanding. More cruel than any orc he struck me, full of venom and lies.
You could well be describing Agandar, for he is such a servant.
Could it be so? Perhaps. It is enough that we will not be deceived by promises from Mordor ever again. The only way the Dark Lord gets his ring back this time is when it's tossed into the fires of Mount Doom.
I have heard much about Erebor from Bilbo. Were you there at the downfall of Smaug?
Sadly, no. I was far to the west in the Blue Mountains where I was born, for my father deemed me too young to join him on Thorin's quest. But once the dragon was destroyed, I hurried with many of my kin to settle there. I've labored some 70 years to restore what was lost and helped build anew the city of Dale from the ruins of the Dragonfire. I've seen the bones of Smaug upon the lake bottom where he fell. Did you know that Bilbo exchanged riddles with the dragon? Now that's a tale he should tell you. We owe much to that fine old hobbit.
What do you know of Frodo?
I know only that he is Bilbo's adopted heir, and that he is chosen of his own free will to bear and destroy the ring. That's all I need to know. I'll protect him to my final breath, if need be.
Elrond has tasked us with a mission to scout the Ettenmoors. But what is it that worries you about the North?
I like not what I've heard of this Agendaur you drove from Fornost. He could yet cause grief untold. There are rumors of gatherings of orcs, goblins, and other deadly foes growing in strength. When the Dark Lord strikes, there will be more than one land that feels his wrath. I fear for the Shire and Ривенделл. It would ease my heart to know that you'll look to the defense of the North for as long as you're needed. With help from Faran, of course.
Whatever Aradan and I, and the most esteemed Faran can do, we shall do. You have my promise.
Well met, friend. It's an honor to make the acquaintance of one of Farin's valiant companions. I'm Glóin, son of Groin, from the Lonely Mountain.
And one of Bilbo's companions in the quest to slay the dragon Smaug. I remember seeing you when Thorin Oakenshield's company stayed with us here in Ривенделл. I am Andriel, a lawmaster of Elrond's house.
I heard about that business at Sarn Ford, and they say the three of you brought down an orc chieftain at Fornost. I expect I'll be hearing of even greater deeds before long. It does my heart good to see a dwarf, an elf, and a man working together again. Reminds me of the old days, it does, when the three kindred fought alongside one another in the Battle of the Five Armies.
Then you approve of my alliance with Faran?
I will speak plainly. I may be less than fond of King Thranduil's wood elves for keeping me in their dungeons, but I've no grudge with any of Elrond's folk.
I have heard when a dwarf bears a grudge, it is set in stone. But I believe this grudge against the wood elves should have been put aside long ago.
You're right, of course. I can be a stiff-necked old dwarf, but it's time to set aside grievances that were long ago repaid. When dwarves, men, and elves fought together at Erebor, we overcame legions of foes. But we face a far more terrible enemy in the Dark Lord. Standing together against Agendaur may be more than just a good idea. It may be our only hope to save the North.
We must not forget the Great Eagles. They have been a great help to us, just as they were to you and your companions.
Well spoken. Thorin's quest and the Battle of Five Armies would have met disaster without the help of the Eagles. You're fortunate to have gained the friendship of such noble creatures. Your life may well depend upon your choice of friends, whatever kindred they be.
Sauron's attention will be focused largely on the south. If we thwart his plans here, he will be distracted. That could prove a benefit to the Ringbearer.
That's my thoughts upon the matter, too. Be the stinging fly in the ointment, as it were. Only this fly's sting will be deadly. And it's time to be about your business. Goodbye, and good luck to you.
Hello there, Andriel. It's good to see you back safe and sound. I've heard all about what you and your friends did to help my Frodo and the Dunedain reach Ривенделл safely. Oh, you'll have to tell me all about it one of these days so I can write it all down properly.
I am glad Frodo made it here safely. He is your heir, yet he is not your son?
Oh no, he's not my son. Actually, he's my first cousin once removed. And also my second cousin once removed. Well, it's complicated, but we share a great-grandfather. The poor lad was orphaned at an early age, and so I adopted him. Made him my heir, all nice and legal, while simultaneously dashing the greedy hopes of my odious relations, the Sackville Baggins. He's a good lad, Frodo. I only wish he hadn't inherited my troubles along with my estate. I hope that Gandalf and the Dunedain will keep him safe in the days ahead.
The Dunedain? You speak of Aragorn?
Yes, indeed. I have called him that since the day he first told me about his heritage. A remarkable man, Aragorn, and a good friend. I almost wish that I could accompany him on his grand quest, but I'm far too old for adventures now. I only hope I will be spared long enough to write it all down.
Can you tell me how Frodo came to be in possession of the Ring of Power?
Well, yes, that was through me, I'm afraid. I found the ring by happenstance while lost beneath the roots of the Misty Mountains. I won it. That is to say, I took it from the creature Gollum. Of course, I did not know the full story of the ring until only a few days ago. I thought it was merely a magical bauble with the power to make the wearer invisible. I only used it to avoid unwelcome visitors. Imagine that old ring of mine causing such a fuss. I would gladly take charge of it again if that would help. Oh, yes. Gladly. Yes. You know, I think it would be best if we discussed something else.
So you have been keeping up with your writing. What is it you are working on now?
Oh, a little of this and a little of that. History, my past adventures, family trees. I've even begun a book of translations from the Elvish. Although lately I've been working on poetry mostly. Say, maybe you could help me with that. I'm writing a poem for Aragorn and I'm a bit stuck on a line or two.
Is that so? Well then, let me hear what you have.
Very well, very well. The verse that's giving me trouble runs like this. Ahem. The light from the west is rekindled. Forth from Imladris it springs. Renewed is the hope that has dwindled.
The light from the west is rekindled, forth from Imladris it springs. Renewed is the hope that is dwindled. The scion of Westernese kings.
Why, yes, yes, that's just the thing, isn't it? Oh, my friend, you should consider exchanging those weapons of yours for the poet's pen.
I hope the day will come again when we concern ourselves solely with music and poetry. But I fear that day is still far off.
Oh, I'm afraid you're right, but since these old hands are not much use with a sword, I'll just keep on with the pen. Though I'll need some help. Perhaps you could show this to the Lady Arwen. She has her people's gift with words, and this touches her deeply after all.
Arwen? Do you really think this is something we should trouble the daughter of Elrond with?
Oh, you are too formal, my friend. Why, I'll have you know that the Lady Arwen has frequently helped me with my poetry, and she is one of the best sources of elven history. Her rendition of the tale of Beren and Luthien is especially moving.
I will take it to her.
Ah, thanks very much. Be sure to give her my compliments, won't you?
Happily. Farewell for now, Bilbo.
Andreal, my Govanen, it is good to see you safely returned. I am told you passed through many dangers to bring us warning of a new threat facing these lands. Estelle speaks highly of you, and my brothers praised the courage you showed at Bornost. I thank you for the part you played in their safe return as well. Rest now a while in the peace of Imladris. It is long since we sat and spoke of herb lore and other gentle arts.
It is a matter of the gentle arts that I bring to you. I have been speaking with Bilbo.
Say no more. I thought our people had a passion for poetry, but this hobbit may yet put us to shame.
Bilbo seems most unusual for a hobbit.
Perhaps we know less of hobbits than we think. They have a strength within that is far greater than their stature. Though I have only just met Frodo, I see the same qualities in him. Bilbo resisted the evil of the ring longer than many we would have called strong. It sustained him, so that now he is very old amongst his kind. But it did not stain him, and it has not lessened his love of poetry and song. Dear old Bilbo. I do believe there is nothing he loves more, except a good meal. In that, he remains a true hobbit.
I have a poem of his here. He asks for your opinion and advice, for he says the subject is a matter very close to your heart.
Then I would guess it is another poem in honor of Estelle. Leave it with me, Andreal. I will give it some thought and answer him myself.
Bilbo will be pleased, I am sure. I would that I had more time for such arts, but Elrond is in need of my skills, and I fear I must leave for the Ettenmoors as soon as may be.
Then I will not keep you, but perhaps we may be of service to one another. Your journey may solve a problem that has perplexed me. I am helping my father create a quantity of Miraval, and we may fall short of certain rare ingredients which can be found in the Ettenmoors.
In all my years at Imladris, only once have I tasted the fragrant cordial Miraval. I remember how it renewed my heart and gave me fresh strength.
Yes, it is difficult to create and therefore precious. If I gave you a list of the ingredients, perhaps you could bring them back from the Ettenmoors. I will set aside a flask for your own use when we have brewed it.
If I may be so bold, why is it that you prefer to use Estelle instead of Aragorn? His true name has long been known to you.
It is true that when first we met, he gave me his Dunedain name and lineage. Yet for the first 20 years of his life, he was known as Estelle, for he is the hope of his people. And hope, Estelle, he remains to me. In this war, Aragorn's fate is entwined with mine, to share his life and accept the doom of men. If our hope fails, the shadow will fall across Middle-earth and leave only ruin. Always he is in my thoughts. Even from afar, I watch over him and keep hope alive in my heart.
I have not heard how you met, if you would speak of it.
I had been living with my mother's kin in Lothlorien for many years, and had only recently returned to Imladris to visit my father. Estelle saw me at twilight as I walked in a grove of birch. Even then, in his youth, he struck me as more than other mortal men. 29 years passed, and I dwelt once again in Lothlorien when he came there, returning from perils on the very borders of Mordor. He had undergone many trials and hardships, yet he seemed as fair as an elf lord when I beheld him walking beneath the golden boughs of the malorn trees. We pledged our troth there, upon the hill of Ciaran Amroth, where I said to him, "Dark is the shadow, and yet my heart rejoices, for you, Estelle, shall be among the great whose valor will destroy it."
Then it is as I heard. You have made the choice of the half-elven, choosing to become mortal because of your love for Aragorn.
That is the gift given to my father's line, to remain of elvenkind and live forever in the undying lands beyond the Great Sea, or to accept a mortal life, both the sweet and the bitter.
You are guided by your heart, so you have made the correct choice, however painful it may prove for yourself, and for the others who love you.
In many ways, it does seem a choice between two separate sorrows. Even should Imladris endure this war, Elrond will depart. When he leaves, we will be parted beyond the end of the world. It is the price I must pay to bring love and hope to Estelle and the race of men.
believe you said something about Miraval.
I am helping my father create a quantity of Miraval, and we may fall short of certain rare ingredients which can be found in the Ettenmoors.
In all my years at Imladris, only once have I tasted the fragrant cordial Miraval. I remember how it renewed my heart and gave me fresh strength.
Yes, it is difficult to create and therefore precious. If I gave you a list of the ingredients, perhaps you could bring them back from the Ettenmoors. I will set aside a flask for your own use when we have brewed it.
You are generous, lady. I will seek them out for you and return with them once my mission is completed.
Andriel, welcome home. It is good to have you back. I have already heard tales of your exploits. All of Imladris is proud of what you have done. Oh, but I forget my duties as steward. You have been through many bitter battles. Are you in need of new arms or equipment?
It is good to be home once again, Ilari. How fares Imladris in my absence?
Less serene than usual, I fear. The servants of the enemy came almost to our very doors in pursuit of the hobbit Frodo Baggins, but he was saved by the valor of Aragorn and the arts of the Lord Elrond. But you know more of this than I.
And Frodo? He came through all this peril in safety?
He was gravely injured by one of the evil weapons of the enemy. It was thought that he would not survive, but Elrond's skill as a healer is unsurpassed. He saved his life, much to the relief of Bilbo.
So Frodo is dear to Bilbo?
Oh yes, he is his nephew and heir. Bilbo hardly left his side during the long days that Elrond tended him.
Were the Nazgul that pursued Frodo destroyed?
I do not know, but my heart tells me they were not. Elrond will be sending out many scouts to learn what they may of the fate of the Nazgul and the movements of the enemy. I have been told to prepare supplies for them.
This is rough country, no mistake. But so far, we've seen no sign of trouble.
But the moors stretch on for many leagues. It would be easy to miss something in these rugged crags and valleys.
Let us continue the search, but be wary. More than one ranger has been lost in these wild lands.
Come on, you faint-hearted scum!
I cannot do that yet! Must wait.
For Erebor! For the Longbeards!
This will prove useful.
See if you can take me!
Aid me! No enemy missiles can pierce this shield. Not enough power! I do not have the power.
Greetings, my friends. I could scarce believe what I saw from above. But elf, dwarf, and man battling the enemy together, such things are not often seen. I knew it had to be you.
Is that you, Belaram? I never thought we'd meet again so soon.
Nor did I. It does seem a strange coincidence, but a happy one, nonetheless.
I was told the Etten Moors were dangerous, but we have encountered more enemies than I expected. Is there something transpiring that we should know of?
Indeed there is. The orcs and trolls of the Etten Moors are gathering to follow in the wake of Bar-Grisar, a corrupt stone giant. The foul folk respect his strength, and they will follow him for plunder and the chance to do evil. The giant must be stopped before he can bring this army to bear against our friends and allies.
Gandalf the Grey traveled here unhindered only a few short weeks ago. Yet now we find the moors are filled with foes. Is it unusual to find so many enemies here?
These moors are always dangerous. A breeding ground for trolls and orcs. But even here, it is unusual to see so many enemies openly assembling. The presence of Bar-Grisar makes them bold. They believe he will lead them to the bloodshed and plunder they crave. And it may well be, unless the giant is destroyed.
Perhaps there are other giants in league with Bar-Grisar.
I do not believe so, for we have learned Bar-Grisar is an outcast among his own kind. They disowned him for past crimes, and will offer him no protection from our vengeance.
I was not aware the great eagles dwelt here in the Etten Moors.
No, we keep our areas atop the high peaks of the nearby Misty Mountains. We have come to the Etten Moors in pursuit of Bar-Grisar.
We will not leave our allies to face this enemy alone. Let us join with you in the hunt for Bar-Grisar.
Your aid would be most welcome. Together we may be able to best him. Every hour he lives, his following grows greater. Let us press on!
This will prove useful. This will prove useful. This will prove useful.
To face a dwarf!
I cannot do that yet.
For Erebor! For the Longbeards!
Not yet. This will prove useful. 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 Githoniel!
For Erebor! For the Longbeards!
Do that yet.
will prove useful.